And then if I can talk them through all the things I had done to make myself hopefully get pupillage right from when I was 17, 18, it helped for them to see that, you know, I was serious about this. And it might be different for everyone else, but that's just kind of how I took it, that I really wanted to prove that there is nothing else I wanted to do.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Student Lawyer podcast series. Whether you're at school, sixth form, university, thinking about a career in law, or exploring law careers, you're in the right place. We are the one-stop shop for student lawyers. If you'd like to join the Student Lawyer as a writer, please email hello@thestudentLawyer.com. This podcast is brought to you by Feed Ignite. Welcome to the Student Lawyer podcast series. My name's Camilla and I'm an LPC student and future trainee solicitor. In this episode, I'm delighted to be joined by Shanzé Shah. Shanzé is an incoming pupil barrister at the Government Legal Department. She's also recipient of 10 scholarships and awards. Today, Shanzé is joining us to share her story about how she was successful in obtaining so many scholarships and awards, and to provide advice to all of the listeners who are interested in the scholarship process. Before we welcome Shanzé onto the show, I'd like to remind all the listeners to please subscribe to the Student Lawyer podcast to ensure that you never miss an episode, and do leave us a star rating and review. So without further ado, let's welcome Shanzé onto the show. Welcome Shanzé, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Wonderful. So before we get started, would you mind telling the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name's Shanzé. I'm 24. So I did a law degree at University of Birmingham. Then I did a commercial law master's at UCL. I then did the BPTC. And then I worked for a year. And all of that has been sort of leading me up to applying for pupillage. And over the years, my kind of aim and kind of gaining legal experience has been one of trying to get an experience that's quite wide. So since my time at university, I've tried to, apply for scholarships which have been abroad, and gain experience that's a bit outside the box, as well as, mini pupillages and all of that. So I guess, I've tried to make myself different in that sense, and I really enjoy it. And now I have thankfully got pupillage at the Government Legal Department, for which I'm very grateful. Thank you. I'm very grateful for that. And so that's where I stand now. I've got another scholarship which I got recently, a Harold G. Fox scholarship, and for that hopefully I will be going to work in Canada come next year, fingers crossed, all being well.
Sure.
And then seeing pupillage after that, and then we'll see what happens next.
Fantastic. That sounds like such an interesting journey. And I just want to touch on actually what, for the listeners who might not be aware, what is the purpose of a scholarship and who is usually eligible?
Yeah, so a scholarship, I think when you first hear it, you kind of just think it's money to do something. But a scholarship can be a grant, so like a financial grant, or it can be an award, which is provided based on academic and overall merit, which helps a student either support their academic studies, or actually to go through and gain an experience which might enhance their career. So a scholarship doesn't always just mean monetary support, but it can also mean giving you the chance to an opportunity which otherwise you wouldn't be able to gain access to. And the one thing I would keep in mind when looking at scholarship is that a lot of different scholarships have different ways of testing. So usually most people are eligible, but they are awarded depending on merit. And I think merit can be quite vague. So it can be academic excellence, the best grades, which I wouldn't say that I necessarily have, the most amazing grades that anyone needs, but it's also about who you are as an all-rounded person and your other experiences. And then for the bar specifically, if you, for example, applying for BPTC scholarships, you might get the major scholarship, and then the financial amount which you get will be different depending on your financial background. So that's something that's tested on your financial needs, but the name of the scholarship which you get will be given to you on your merit as a person. So I think it can be quite wide. For the bar, of course, you have the scholarships, the BPTC scholarships, and then the international ones, which I'll talk about.
Yeah.
And then there's other scholarships which enable experiences.
Awesome. That's really interesting. Before I started sort of looking to do this podcast, I think my narrow view was that a scholarship was generally something that you would get to sort of go towards your university course or maybe like a master's. So I didn't realize actually how many different types there were out there. So that's really interesting. So how did you find out about which scholarships are out there? Did you need to do any research? And if so, where did you start?
So it kind of depends. I'm obviously going to come at this from someone whose main aim was to, succeed and get pupillage and a bar point of view. Yeah. But I would say I actually started in university. So in my first year, I'd kind of heard in here and there that, people get scholarships to go do stuff abroad, but not really known anyone. And through some internet trawling, really, I found out about British Council, and the British Council gives scholarships to different countries to go there, work and live and experience. So the first scholarship I actually applied for was this British Council scholarship to India, which the video for which I recorded in a library room that I booked out. And
wow.
But the thing is, that one, I didn't get it. So I was sort of like, okay, now I know that this is what I kind of need to do. So I got that. But then the following year, I kept my eye out because I wanted this international experience. And I applied to work at another charity in the legal team in India, and then got a scholarship through my university. So the one tip I would give is if you're at university, first try to see the scholarships that are available at your university. And actually, sometimes they're not going to be well advertised. So the one I got to go to India, I don't think many people knew about it, and that there was this, funding available. And you did have to apply, and I had to do like a video interview and a written application, but my university helped me fund that experience. And that was really the beginning of my international scholarship. So I would say the first thing to do is, if you are at university, is see what your university is offering and ask them, and then you might find out that there is something that that they didn't tell people about, or you don't know. And then my second thing would be is, if you are looking to go to the bar, is to look at the ends right from the beginning. So not when you're looking to do the BPTC, but really as soon as you start university. So when I started university, I was at this point just looking at the websites of Middle Temple, Inner Temple grades, and seeing how can I get involved in this world, because I don't really come from a background where I have any link to the bar or to the legal world at all. So I wanted to get my foot in early.
Right.
And I think that's important. And then so I found out that there was the Pegasus scheme, and then the Jeremy McMullen Award, which I got. And these actually were the first scholarships which enabled me to get my first set of mini pupillages.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I think those can be really hard to actually, it's easy to say, people can be like, oh, do loads of mini pupillages, they look great. But actually, even getting the first few is really difficult. So when you apply for these sort of access scholarships, they enable you to get those first set of mini pupillages. So then you can go off and apply to other chambers and say, look, I am already trying. And it's that, thing of showing initiative. So I would say, look at your ins. Don't wait till you're applying for a bar scholarship. Get involved and get in touch with the ins early. And again, these aren't some things that sometimes I think now actually it's a bit better advertised, but when I was at university, like the websites aren't, extremely interactive. So you really have to dig in and see what's happening. And then you visit the inn. And then if you get these scholarships early on, it helps, I think, when you apply for the bigger ones later for your bar, because they already kind of know you, or they at least know that you're someone who's keen.
That's fantastic advice. I mean, I think that's just brilliant. Starting early is definitely the way to go, I think. It can really help you build out your CV and your experiences, and to get that, like you said, experience in actually writing these applications and doing these applications, so that when you do get to the BPTC, you've already got all this experience. So that's a great advice.
And then you also build like links with people. I mean, not as in you like net connections, but at least you get to know some persons. And, when you do these mini pupilages early on, and they know you've got it through the Jeremy McMullen Award from Middle Temple, or you've got it through an Inner Temple Award, they will maybe think, oh, so, we're going to look after these people. And maybe they know that you're someone who's interested and has kind of worked hard to get there. So I think it is valuable even early on. And then the last thing I would say is keep up on the research, and don't just apply once and then leave it if you don't get in. The one I've recently got, I actually applied for it last year and I didn't get through the first round, and then I got it this year. So if you have that leeway where you can apply for things again, if it's possible for you, depending on what you're doing, then I would do that, because you kind of learn what went wrong the first time, and keep up on the dates because they change. So those would be my sort of very rambly points about how to get started.
No, brilliant. And do you know, I really like the fact that you mentioned that you didn't get through, because sometimes we can look at people's experiences on, say, LinkedIn, for example. We can see all these scholarships and we think, wow, this person really got it together. And then you might apply for something and get rejected and think, oh, it's not for me. But I really like the fact that you just explained there that you have been rejected for things, and you've gone back and you've given it another go, and you got there. So yeah, it's a fantastic message to share.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important, especially if you're applying for the bar, you're going to have to, unless, some people don't, but I got rejected from many things, many times. So it's good. Get rejected, apply again.
Definitely. So what scholarships have you been awarded to date? I know you've just mentioned a few, but yeah, which ones have you got, and what impact have they had on your journey to the bar?
So if I was to go through them, I think I can divide them in so the ones that have been given to me by the INS, the ones that I would class as international scholarships. There's some overlap, and then the awards.
Yeah.
I will start by talking about the ones that I've been awarded by the INS, and that would be, I'll just list them first and then talk about it. So scholarships that I got from the INS, and that's the Harold G. Fox Scholarship, which is a scholarship where two future barristers go to work in Canada. And then the Queen Mother Major Scholarship, the Anglo-Israel Scholarship, and then the Jeremy McMullen Access to Bar Award, and then the Pegasus Award from Inner Temple. And besides that, the international scholarships, which I've got, was an international internship award I got from the Young Barristers Association to help me complete my work in Greece and as part of a refugee charity. The Generation UK China Scholarship, a legal summer school scholarship to study at Goethe University in Frankfurt, and a scholarship to work in India from University of Birmingham. And then lastly, the two advocacy awards, one advocacy award by my university at the end of my final year, and then a advocacy scholarship by BPP, which kind of helped cut down the costs of my BPTC.
That's a very impressive list.
It sounds like I think when I say it's like, oh, it's a very long list, but there's a lot of the ones that you don't see in there that I have 100% applied for and not got. So I would just say that it's something I've been doing for a long time. So, it's not that it just kind of, get them all together. But I would say if I start talking the ones about the bar, which I think lots of people think are very important. And if you're a future barrister, you always think about, getting a BPTC scholarship. And for anyone who doesn't know, those are the ones you apply for before you do your BPTC. And because the BPTC is extortionately priced, it's really useful to get a scholarship. And also the scholarship is a good help to show that, you make it at the bar. It gives you some confidence. So I think I would give the Queen Mother Scholarship, which is a major scholarship, a lot of credit for that. When I got that, I was really relieved, actually, because there's one reason I wouldn't have done the BPTC had I not got that scholarship.
Because, really?
No, because I think firstly, the amount that you need to pay is too big a risk almost to take, for me anyway, personally. And then secondly, I think getting that scholarship just gave me that confidence that I needed to be like, okay, I'm on the right path and I should continue pursuing this career. Because when I left university, a lot of my friends, went to the solicitor's side in big firms and smaller firms. But I knew one girl who wanted to become a barrister from my undergrad university. But, no one really goes to, a lot of people that I didn't know wanted to take the risk to go to the bar.
Right, yeah.
And so I kind of was like, I needed this scholarship to kind of prove to myself that, no, I'm doing the right thing. And this scholarship has essentially really, really helped me, because it obviously financially helped me, but because it's a major scholarship, it was sort of like a tick from Middle Temple being like, we think, you can make
You're
it.
On the right path, yeah.
And they're investing in me, essentially. So that does give you a lot of confidence that you're doing the right thing. And it also is good to show on your applications, because everyone knows the major scholarships from all the ends. So they think, okay, she probably knows what she's doing. And other people think she can do the right thing. I would say the Anglo-Israel scholarship, which allowed me to work in Israel, was also quite a major shaper for me, because I'm Pakistani. And actually, one of the main reasons I wanted to do the Anglo-Israel scholarship was because I wanted to go work in Israel. And coming from my background, obviously, a lot of people, there's not that much of a connection between those two countries, and I wanted to kind of go there and break down those barriers and be someone who's able to do that and learn through the legal environment. And that's a similar thing when I went to India. I wanted to do that because I thought, I wanted to see why these connections between these two different cultures don't really happen.
Right.
And so in Israel, I was able to work at the law firm and really see a lot of similarities actually to the work that we do here. And I was able to help them with some equity and trust stuff and see how the law had been developing there. But then as a barrister side, it was exciting for me to go into the courts and see just how dramatic and full of theatre their civil courts were. And, it was not very formal. People were coming in and out. And, it's a very different experience to a court in England. And what that does is it kind of prepares you to see the different types of lawyers there are, and you pick up skills from the different lawyers that you work with. And so that kind of leads me on to the international side and why I applied for these international scholarships. And they're all legal based. So everywhere I went, I was working either at law firm or studying law. And I think the main thing is because as an international scholarship, you're put in the deep end. So new area of law, new people, new culture, and you just have to adjust. And that builds for good experience and, gives you a lot of examples to put in your applications that are true. And it really helped me show to employers different sides of me. So, even my GLD interview recently, I was still picking up from examples of things that I'd done in India, which was in second year of my undergrad, because I thought they were very relevant as to what I was being asked for. And so I think that these international scholarships they've shaped me as a person, and I think that's individual to me. But I would suggest anyone else as well to kind of do any such opportunity they get to step out of their comfort zone, because at the bar even, I think we can all sometimes be like, I think it's changing now, but a lot of us, there are a lot of barristers who might, we look all the same or are very similar. I certainly don't fit into that category, but in the sense that it's nice to be someone who's done different things and been with different people, and your mindset changes,
Definitely. It sounds like you've got so many varied experiences,
exactly.
and you can and you sort of grow as a person in so many different ways that you never would have necessarily expected, but it just it does shape you as a person, like you said.
Exactly. And I think employers, like seeing that, they like seeing someone who's worked in difficult situations. So, when I do come later on to start practicing, I'm not going to be fazed by something different, because I've been in another country where they don't speak my language and tried to work on a case, So
Wow,
that is useful. But I think making any experience you do your own is important. So anything you do, kind of picking up on like how it helped you is what helps. And that's how my scholarships have helped me, and I'm really grateful to all of them. And then the last thing I would say is connections. So I am still in touch with the judge I sat with in the Shalom court in Israel, and they were fascinated about how the bar works in the UK and all the Harry Potter like world of it. And he's like, come here, and he was just like, this is interesting. You go to all these like dinners, and we're like, yeah, we pay for them, so don't worry. And just that, so the building those connections and keeping in touch. And he'd like to come here. I made a friend who, when I was working in India, is now doing a PhD in women's rights in London, and she's now working. I even worked with her in the organization that I help run, Network for Migration Matters. So many years ago I met her. Now she's here. So I think making your legal world a little bit wider and being part of like a global legal community is what it's helped me to do, and rather than just being part of like the English bar, which can sometimes feel quite small. It seems like every other person. You're like, oh, this person knows this person, and that's not great sometimes.
Sure, definitely branching out and widening your network would definitely help. And you might have like a cross-border issue, and one day you can pick up the phone and say, oh, I know someone over there. So that sounds like a great thing to do. So how do you actually go about making a successful scholarship application?
Okay, so first thing for anything, I think, is, as with a job application or anything, is research. Really, really research the scholarship. So if it was the British Council UK Gen scholarship, then research the part of China, or like research the legal world there, or really research them. And then if you can, research the people who have got the scholarship. Like you do sometimes if you're applying for chambers and you look at previous pupils. Here, I would say, is look at previous scholars, which is normally a list. Normally, it's available, previous scholars from that year. Google them, see what they're doing, if they're barristers, if they're academics, if they're not practicing, they're doing something else. And if you want, and if there's a way of contacting them, I would email some of these people. I have in the past, reached out to previous scholars and asked if they had any advice, anything they could help me, help that helped them in the interview, or just any words of wisdom. And it's really helpful, actually, because these people have done it, and you kind of get a good idea of, okay, so this is the kind of person they gave it to. And not necessarily do I fit this kind of person because you don't want to, you want to be different, but in the sense you can at least gauge that these people have got it. How can I make myself, prove myself to be just as good? And also the advice sometimes I get is really useful. They can, say, tell you tips about what they did on their scholarship, if it's an international one, or in interviews if they were difficult or easy, just so you're prepared, and when you walk into the interview or do the video interview, you're kind of like, okay, I know what's going to happen, because a lot of the times scholarship interviews, especially if they're vague ones, you might not find a lot of information about interviews and stuff. So I know, of course, when you're going for a VAC scheme interview or training contract, there's so many resources online.
Yeah.
But that might actually not be a thing if you're applying, I don't know, for the British Council scholarship, or an internal scholarship at your university, or even the Harold G. Fox. You might not find out what the actual process is like, and that in that sense it might be useful to contact people. For the bar scholarships, the major ones, there is a lot of resources out there, but it still helps contacting. So on the INS website, you will see the list of previous scholars who've got the major scholarship and the other one. And there's no harm in sending an email if you can find them and say, I heard that you got the scholarship last year. How was your interview? And is there anything I should prepare for? And I think that helps. So if you can do that, I would do that. And then lastly, your application, they vary. Some of them can be quite short, which is almost more daunting if it's a 300-word answer. And what I've learned from failing, being rejected and then getting some, is really packing in to that 200 or 300 word, making use of every word that you're saying and making it effective. So I've had friends, sort of read over, not necessarily any application that I guess that goes to, using impactful short sentences, and you're making use of every word. So when they read it, they think, oh God, this person really does want it, because they've spent these 200 words so well, or 300. And your CVs as well. A lot of these scholarships do sometimes just ask the CVs, and I think at the bar we're not so used to, when we're applying as prospective pupils, we do all these applications, so we don't really send CVs so much. So making sure your CVs are quite clear, and it's first legal based, and your employment's at the bottom, and you're highlighting all your meeting and awards and legal stuff right at the start. And then I would say, just if it's an international one, research the country, research the legal environment there, what's interesting. And also, if you can, try to research, the specifics about a country. So not so much if you're applying for China, it's a really big market, and not the most obvious case. If you can try something that is interesting and that might be maybe links to your previous experiences, then do that. So I would say it's a lot of research. You can't really do a good scholarship application without having really done a good background check of everything, is my opinion.
Sure, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So nothing too generic, really try and pick up on the really specific points, and then hopefully it will stand out against others. That's great advice. So what about when you get to the interview stage? What's a scholarship interview like? Is it like a job interview, or is it a bit different? And how do you go about preparing for that?
I'll start by speaking about the BPTC major scholarship ones, which might be the ones that people are most interested in. That is, so I applied to Middle Temple, which firstly, I don't know if as I pointed out before, if you have established a link with a temple before your application, then that's great. And that's one of the reasons I applied to Middle, also because I really liked it there. But Middle and Inner both do interviews for everyone. And so that is great. But it also means that you need to really stand out in the interview. And for my BPTC interview, my main advice would be be really honest, because they interview so many people. They really want to see that you are passionate, and you have the whole, you will do everything to make it at the bar and you are going to make it as a barrister, and you need to have that confidence in yourself, but also be honest about who you are. And I don't know, for me it's important to be personal, so my story about coming to the bar is a personal one, so I always would reiterate that. And if it involves bringing in my background or my culture, my upbringing, my own experiences of being quite this outsider kind of person trying to come into the bar and doing all these things where I don't really see anyone like myself doing it, tell them realistically why you deserve the scholarship, because you are going to make it, and have that confidence. Of course you need to have researched your reasons and come up with your answers where you're saying, why do you want to be a barrister, what experience do you have, and what are you going to do, why are you going to be a good candidate. And also think about, they are going to, if they're giving you a major scholarship, they're giving you the name of the scholarship, also the monetary fund, and of course they do want to feel like you'll be successful. So it's important to show that. And it's about grades, yes, but I really don't think it's always about grades. It's about showing all the other experiences that you've got, and how even something like I used to work at the personal support unit in the civil courts right at the start of my degree, so in the summer of my first year. And then if I can talk them through all the things I had done to make myself hopefully get pupillage right from when I was 17, 18, then it helped for them to see that, I was serious about this. And it might be different for everyone else, but that's just kind of how I took it, that I really wanted to prove that there is nothing else I wanted to do. And be solid about your answers, be sure, but also be real, be funny. And one of the experiences that I would give is when I did my Anglo-Israel interview, it was the evening of the BPTC drafting exam. Right. So, yeah, the drafting exam is not a great exam. It's one of those, 3 hours, 4 hours. I don't really want to remember. And I did the exam and I got the tube and I literally ran to get dressed and turned up to the interview, did the interview. It was all great. It was done. And I didn't know if it was all great or not because my mind was...
You were just gone. You're like, that's great.
I was just like, okay.
It's a busy day for you.
Yeah. And they kind of knew, but, there was no other way they could do my interview. So I did that. And then at the end, they asked me okay, if you were to go to Israel, what would you be most excited about? And my answer was, mahlabi. And they were like, mahlabi? And I was like, yeah, it's this Israeli dessert, which I met this Israeli guy in Germany while I was studying there, and he told me about it. And I just want to go there and learn about the food and how food brings us together. And I'm quite passionate about food in the sense I write a food blog and stuff. And so it got them laughing because they were I was just talking about food and I was like, yeah, I want to go to Israel so I can, see besides law, this is something. So it made me a bit more of a real person. So when I'd done the whole intense interview, I didn't come up with a answer that was I want to see this, this, and this, which I did. But I think maybe my answer was just a bit more honest. So keep that. Obviously, that doesn't mean you don't need to be prepared for the really tough questions because they will come. But you also just need to be a bit more of your honest self. The most recent one I will give example of is, so for example, for the Harold G. Fox, that was a really short interview, but I would say quite a intense interview. So, the first question is, why your motivation? And for that, you really just need to be prepared. You have to come in with your 3 or 4 points, which you know well, and you say, me, because this, and this. And then they know, okay, at least she knows what her answers are. And that question you're going to be asked in all scholarships and in all job interviews. So really be ready with those. And then your legal interest, which I think generally whether it's a solicitor or a barrister, you always need to know what's going on.
Yeah, for
in
sure.
the legal world. So even in these scholarship interviews, pretty much in most of them, I've always been asked about something that's going on. And in this one, it was around the time that Donald Trump had been deciding on who he would, nominate for
Right.
after RBJ's passing. And so I had to defend as to, why I think it should just be a woman, and why it wouldn't be fair for it to be a man or a woman, depending on how good they were. So, a little bit of like advocacy skills there as well, even though it's not a pupillage interview. They did test me, and it's quite short. So you do need to be prepared for that kind of question. And then you need to be prepared to be a bit more lighthearted as well. So to show them that, you are real. So yeah, I would conclude by saying, show your passion for the specific experience, or for the education, or for the bar if it's a general one. Be ready to say why you, and in that, what's different about you. Why do you stand out? Because we're all trying really hard to make it as to get pupillages. Most of it, all of us, or pupillages, or I don't know, training contracts. We all work really hard. If we're in here, we are working hard. So what's different about you? And why that scholarship? Why do you need it? Why do you want to go to that country? And what benefit will you bring to them as well? So, just as much as all the things you're going to get out of it, how might you be useful to the firm you're going to work at, or to the court, or to this country? And also, how might this be good for the future? So are you going to build on this connection? Are you going to, do something about your experience afterwards? And I would always give examples of the fact that I had gone to India, or when I had gone to China, and then I kept in touch with those people and built on those connections. And it was important for me to act as a representative of whichever organization that was sending me there. So, you need to show them that you will be a good representative. And then lastly, be honest, and don't try to be someone you're not. It's like, we're all really, hopefully, like, interesting people. We have interesting things we do, and talk about them, and, be proud about them. I wouldn't say like, oh, don't joke, but in the sense of like, give honest answers about what you really feel. And if you actually really want it, and you're capable, then that will show. But if you haven't done the research, and they can tell you're not really that interested in the country, or they pick up on a detail, then it might not be so good. So also be sure that when you're applying for something, you really, really do want it.
Brilliant. Such fantastic and thorough advice. Thank you so much. I really like how you also reflected on previous times that you've been away, and what you've done, and sort of applied it to how you would do that in the interview that you're in. I thought that was really powerful. So if we could just, we're coming to the end of the interview now, which is a shame, but if you could give yourself one piece of advice at the start of your journey, what do you think that would be?
I would say keep persisting and keep working hard. And then just never really underestimate the chance of something unexpected taking you where you want to go. And this isn't one, but maybe two. But also be extremely grateful for every opportunity you are given, and every chance. And in the moments where like things are going a bit tough and there's loads of rejections, like, stay grateful for everything that you have been given, and enjoy it, because you are lucky to get that. And just keep working hard.
That's fantastic advice. Well, thank you so much again for coming on the show. It's been fantastic to have you here, and like I've said, you've provided some wonderful advice. And I just want to say congratulations again on getting pupillage.
Thank you.
That's brilliant. But when do you start?
So it might be next year. It might be it will kind of depend. But I'm going through the processes now. So depending on when I do the scholarship upcoming, and then after that,
Awesome. Well, good luck, and hopefully we can keep in touch and maybe have you back on the show in the future. That would be brilliant.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And thank you to all the listeners for tuning in. Until next time, goodbye.
To hear more of the Student Lawyers podcast, hit the subscribe button and leave us a star rating and review. If you would like to join the Student Lawyer as a writer, please email hello@thestudentlawyer.com. We'd like to thank Felix Knight for producing this podcast today.